Coming up on this Friday edition of Daybreak, almost 300 people are reported dead after a Malaysian passenger plane crashes in Ukraine. Ukrainian officials say it was shot down by a ground-to-air missile. The Koreas failed to narrow their differences over North Korea's participation in the upcoming Asian Games in the south. Plus, Israel launches a ground offensive against Gaza following 10 days of bombings and airstrikes. Daybreak begins now. Hello and thanks for joining us. To our viewers around the world, it's 6 a.m. on Friday, July 18th, here in Seoul. I'm Mark Broom and you're tuned in to Daybreak. Our top story this morning, a Malaysia Airlines passenger plane that was carrying 295 people has been shot down over Ukraine, killing everyone on board. The aircraft, a Boeing 777, was flying from Amsterdam to Kuala Lumpur when it fell near the city of Donetsk in a restive area which has become a stronghold for pro-Russian rebels. Ukraine's Interior Ministry advisor says the plane, which was flying at 33,000 feet, was brought down by a ground-to-air missile fired by separatists. The self-proclaimed Donetsk People's Republic, the pro-Russian separatist movement in southeastern Ukraine, has denied any involvement. US President Barack Obama said it was a terrible tragedy and vowed the US would offer any assistance necessary to determine the cause of the crash. The UN Security Council plans to hold an emergency meeting on Ukraine on Friday. No word yet on whether there were any Korean nationals on the flight, and we'll bring you more details on this developing story throughout the day. Now, the UN Security Council has condemned recent ballistic missile launches by North Korea, saying the 3 rounds of Scud missiles fired in June and July were in violation of Council demands on Pyongyang. The Council President for July, the Rwandan UN Ambassador Eugene Gasana, said the Council members wanted to urge North Korea to fully comply with the relevant Security Council resolutions. North Korea is under a number of UN, US and other national sanctions for repeated nuclear and ballistic missile tests since 2006 in defiance of international demands to stop. Now, working-level talks to discuss the details of North Korea's participation in the upcoming Asian Games in September that will be held in the South Korean city of Incheon ended without any agreements on Thursday, with the North, in fact, storming out of the negotiating room. Our Hwang Sang-yi reports.
Hours of talks led the Koreas nowhere on Thursday, as the meeting ended with an angry exit by North Korea.
North Korea accused South Korea of trying to break down the talks on purpose and stormed out after unilaterally ending the meeting. Such action by the North is deeply regretful, and we hope to see North Korea participate in the Incheon Asian Games.
North Korea opened the meeting by saying it would send the largest ever North Korean delegation to the Games, 350 athletes and 350 cheerleaders. Under Pyongyang's proposal, the athletes would travel by air and the cheering squad by car. A North Korean ferry would also arrive in Incheon to be used as housing for the cheerleaders. South Korea said it would accommodate the North Korean delegation just like any of the other teams participating in the sporting event, adding that further assistance could be provided. But when South Korea asked for more details on its plans, North Korea walked away, questioning Seoul's motives. Nevertheless, some experts say the Asian Games could become a platform for Pyongyang to show its sincerity.
So if it works, I think they'll be able to say, well, see, we meant what we said, and let's try something else. Let's have a second step on this. Maybe it will change perceptions in the South enough so that a second step will be easier.
Although no dates have been set for additional rounds of talks, the two sides are expected to meet again before the Incheon Asian Games begin on September 19th. Hwang Sang-hee, Arirang News.
Now, North Korea has reportedly sent a letter to the White House, officially protesting the release of the Hollywood film The Interview. The action comedy, which stars like Seth Rogen and James Franco, portrays a fictional attempt by the CIA to assassinate North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Our Shin Se-min has this report.
The Interview, a film on a CIA mission to assassinate North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, is set to be released in October. But the trailer alone has been enough to stir up controversy, given that it's the first ever Hollywood movie that depicts the young North Korean leader. Seth Rogen, who also co-produced and co-directed the film, tweeted last month that he hopes Kim Jong-un watches the movie and enjoys it. And of course, North Korea is not happy with this film. It called the film as a wanton act of terror and warned the U.S. of a merciless response if the movie is released. North Korea also appealed its complaint to the United Nations. North Korea's ambassador to the UN sent a letter to the UN Secretary General saying the film is an act of war and calls the two directors as terrorists. Now, Rogen, seemingly enjoying the responses his movie has engendered out of Pyongyang, later tweeted again, this time joking that people normally don't want to kill him until after they've paid $12 to see one of his films. And in the latest development, Pyongyang has sent a letter of protest over the movie, this time to the White House. Voice of America reports that the North asked White House National Security Council to review the letter, which said it could not comment on the movie. Now, at this point, there are no signs that Columbia Pictures, the distributor of The Interview, has any plan to shelve this film. While they haven't commented on the threats out of Pyongyang, they no doubt are enjoying the free publicity the North is providing them. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
Now, turning to domestic politics, the race is on for the National Assembly. Campaigning for the July 30th by-elections officially got underway on Thursday, and the stakes are extremely high, with 15 parliamentary seats up for the taking. Ji Myung-gil has more.
For the next 13 days, 55 candidates will be on the campaign trail, battling it out for the 15 vacant parliamentary seats that are up for grabs in the July 30th by-elections. 6 of the 15 seats are located in Seoul and Gyeonggi-do province. 2 are in the Gyeongsang-do provinces, 4 in the Jeollado provinces, while the remaining 3 are in the Chungcheong-do provinces. The ruling Saenuri Party is vying to secure a majority of parliamentary seats through the by-elections, fielding candidates in all 15 races. Seoul's Dongjak-bi district is considered strategically important to both rival parties, as it's the only vacant assembly seat in Seoul.
If given the chance, I will use the lessons I've learned from running the Dongjak-gu district and make sure the National Assembly is working toward improving the livelihoods of the people.
With no clear winner in last month's local elections, main opposition party candidate Ki Dong-min emphasized the importance of victory.
The new Political Alliance for Democracy must win in all 15 districts, including Seoul's Dongjak-bi constituency, to make a statement against the Park Geun-hye administration's arrogance and stubbornness.
During the campaign period, the Saenuri Party is expected to distance itself from President Park Geun-hye and put more of an emphasis on the candidate's capabilities. The main opposition party will focus on the government's mishandling of April's ferry tragedy and present alternatives to the ruling party's policies. Ji Myung-gil, Arirang News.
We start before the sun rises to bring you the latest stories out of Korea. We also lead the way with important global coverage. Stay on the pulse of what is happening with Daybreak.
The Korean government will make an official announcement later today on the opening of the country's rice market. The Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs says the decision will be announced following an economic ministers' meeting on this Friday. Ministry officials say the government has long been expected to liberalise the market, a move they say will eventually help protect the country's rice industry. Local farmers are strongly against the idea as they see it as a threat to their livelihoods. However, the government claims it can effectively protect the local market by setting high tariffs of around 400%. This will make rice imports more expensive than locally produced grains. Korea's agricultural organisations have vowed to protest against any opening of the rice market. Now, in financial and economic news, the Korean won continues its ascent. It's appreciated by the biggest margin against the greenback among G20 countries over the past 3 months. And that fact has got the nation's exporters on edge. Yulian reports.
The Korean won rose 5.2% against the US dollar in the second quarter of this year. That's the biggest jump out of all G20 member countries, according to the Bank of Korea, ahead of Canada, Russia and Britain. The currency's rise has been attributed to 27 straight months of an current account surplus and a rush of foreign investment into Korean stocks and bonds. Expectations that the European Central Bank's rate cuts could propel more foreign capital into Asia's fourth largest economy have also had an effect. But export companies are hurting, as a stronger won makes Korean-made exports significantly more expensive for overseas buyers. In a recent survey conducted by the Korea Federation of Small and Medium Business, 9 out of 10 small to medium-sized export companies said the currency fluctuations were affecting their profitability. The situation is only likely to worsen down the road. The companies worry that the exchange rate may fall below what they see as a break-even point of 1,057 won. But economists say the exchange rate may fall even lower.
When the U.S. tapering ends in October, the won may begin to weaken against the dollar. But the upward pressure still far outweighs the downward pressure on the won because of the continued current account surplus and abundance in foreign exchange holdings. The currency may fall even below the 1,000 mark by the end of the year.
Kim says the government needs to intervene in the currency market before the export companies are forced to scale down their outbound shipments. Yurian, Arirang News.
President Park Geun-hye and her science and technology advisors have moved forward with their plans to create new growth engines that they hope will lead to more jobs being created. The proposed measures are expected to help the government tackle global issues as well, such as ageing societies, which Korea has a problem with, and also climate change. Chae-sun reports.
President Park's science and technology advisors pledged to make Korea one of the world's top 7 biotechnology nations by 2020 by fostering 50 globally competitive biofirms and launching 10 new types of medicine. To achieve this, the Advisory Council first proposed turning Korea into the world's largest biosimilar medicine producer by 2016, especially as more than a dozen innovative drugs overseas are close to their patent expiration. The council also talked about investing more in commercializing stem cell and gene therapy treatments and utilizing Korea's advanced IT capabilities to develop state-of-the-art medical equipment. Because of the aging global population and growing health concerns, the advisors expect there to be rising demand for bio-related industries over the next 20 years. As more and more countries look towards eco-friendly energy sources in tackling climate change, the Science Ministry vowed to expand R&D investments into related technologies such as solar and fuel cells and bioenergy to $2 billion by 2020. And the Land Ministry suggested easing regulations and offering tax support to boost construction of self-sufficient zero-energy buildings that minimize energy usage through insulation. At Thursday's meeting, President Park said both the bio and renewable energy areas contribute to improving quality of life and opening an era of national happiness. She then urged the government and the private sector to work together to create a self-sustainable industrial ecosystem. Choi Yu-sun, Arirang News.
Now, you may have heard of Bororo and or lava. Well, if you haven't, you will soon, because Korea's most popular animated cartoon characters are winning over countless young fans around the world. And they're even, in fact, taking home plenty of awards overseas as well. So riding on this very exciting wave, Korea has pulled out all the stops for its largest character fair, which is currently underway in southern Seoul. Our Park Ji-won reports.
This adorable feline character is one of the most popular emoticons on Korea's mobile messaging application KakaoTalk. It's been downloaded more than 1 million times since it was first introduced in 2012. If cats aren't your thing, how about a sleep-loving sloth? This sloth character embodies the slow life that some of us might miss in this busy modern society we live in. It would be remiss if we didn't mention Bororo, perhaps the most widely recognizable Korean character worldwide. The children's animation has been exported to some 130 countries since it debuted in the early 2000s. Following in the lovable penguin's tracks is Larva, another successful character that now has a presence in 105 countries.
It doesn't have any language, it doesn't have any dialogue. It's a simple slapstick comedy that everybody easy to understand, so I think that's the main reason.
From instant messenger emoticons to healing icons, Korea's character industry is expanding rapidly. In just 6 years, the export volume of Korean characters has more than doubled, and from 2010 to 2012, the export volume grew at an average growth rate over 22% every year.
Well, I've been visiting Korea since the early 1990s in the licensing business. I've really seen the industry grow and become a very mature, and it's really grown to world-class level, particularly with a lot of the innovative properties.
I think there's definitely a maturing of the licensing market here. People are more aware of the value of an effective strategic licensing program, how it could help create more awareness for their brand or their character, and how it could also help them create a significant revenue stream.
All these characters and many others can be found at the Seoul Character and Licensing Fair being held at COEX through this Sunday. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
Time now for a look through the international headlines we're following on this Friday morning. For that, we turn to our Eunice Kim standing by at the news centre for us. Good morning, Eunice.
And good morning to you, Mark. Israel has launched a ground offensive in Gaza, significantly escalating a 10-day aerial operation intended to destroy Hamas's military capabilities. Residents reported heavy artillery and naval shelling as well as helicopter fire along the Gaza border. An Israeli military spokesman said the operation will target infrastructure and operatives to safeguard Israeli civilians. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office said he made the call after Hamas rejected an Egyptian ceasefire plan earlier and after Hamas militants tried to infiltrate into Israel through a tunnel from Gaza. The move comes, the fighting resumed following Thursday's temporary ceasefire called by the United Nations. Palestinian health officials say 233 Palestinians so far have been killed in Israeli air and naval strikes so far, including 3 children, most recently when Israeli aircraft bombed a house in Gaza City. The Israeli military says Gaza militants have fired more than 1,300 rockets into Israel. Gunmen attacked Afghanistan's Kabul International Airport as election watchers began a recount of votes in the country's contested presidential runoff last month. A rocket attack struck the airport in the pre-dawn hours Thursday local time, setting off a gun battle between militants and security forces on the ground. An army spokesperson said 2 nearby buildings under construction were occupied and used as a base to direct rockets and gunfire toward the airport. Kabul's police chief said 4 attackers were killed and the airport reopened with operations returning to normal. Meanwhile, UN and American election observers are in the capital city to monitor an audit of the vote that both candidates Abdullah and Ashraf Ghani had called fraud-ridden. It's part of a deal mediated by U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry as a NATO-led combat mission there is set to soon formally end. Japan is set to work with the UK on the development of air-to-air missile technology, as it also approved its first weapons part export since Tokyo lifted its self-imposed ban on such materials. Kyodo News Agency reports Japan's National Security Council gave the green light on both moves. The high-performance sensors to be exported to the U.S. will be produced by Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, meant to be installed in PAC-2 surface-to-surface missile systems, which will be then exported to Qatar. The Tokyo government effectively waived its ban on armed exports in April of this year. And finally, Microsoft has begun what's expected to be the largest layoff in the software giant's 39-year history. Up to 18,000 jobs, or 14% of the company's workforce, are expected to be slashed in the next year. The move comes 5 months into CEO Satya Nadella's tenure as the company tries to shape up to be more cloud computing and mobile friendly. Little is known about where those job cuts will be, though its newly acquired Nokia phone division is expected to be cut nearly by half.
And TGI Friday, everyone, as we kick things off in swimming once again as Marine boy Park Tae-hwan continues to dominate during the national trials, this time in the 200-meter individual medley. Now, just a day after setting a new event record in the 200-meter freestyle event, the 25-year-old star comes back on Thursday during the 200-meter individual medley and comes in with a final time of 2 minutes 0.31 seconds, setting a new Korean record in the event. Of course, with the first place finish, Park Tae-hwan earns himself another spot in the Incheon Asian Games. And now moving over to football this time, and with the 2014 Brazil World Cup behind us, the latest FIFA rankings show some changes, this including the South Korean national football team. Despite dropping out of the group stages without a single win, the South Korean national football team still manages to move up 1 spot as they're now ranked 56 in the world. This leaves them at number 4 amongst the Asian nations, with Japan, Iran, and Uzbekistan ahead of them. Meanwhile, after winning their 4th World Cup title, Germany claims the top FIFA ranking for the first time in 20 years. And now moving over to the KBO this time, of course, with the All-Star game taking place later today in Gwangju. The first half of the 2014 season is now behind us. So let's now take a look at how the standings look so far. And of course, taking a look here, now we see that the Samsung Lions continue their winning ways in first place, but with their recent struggles, they're just 3.5 games ahead of the second place Nexon Heroes, with the NC Dinos and the Lotte Giants finishing off the top 4 teams in the standing. In the bottom half of the standing, the Tucson Bears, they've been struggling as of late in 5th place, with the Kia Tigers, the LG Twins, storming up in the standings lately right behind the Tucson Bears. Meanwhile, the SK Wyverns with some problems at the moment, and Hanwha being Hanwha, are both down in the cellar. And now, speaking of which, tonight's KBO All-Star game will be one to remember. That is, if the rain does hold up down in Gwangju. Because after the Futures All-Star League was canceled due to rain yesterday, the KBO will see its first doubleheader All-Star game. And according to the latest schedule, the Futures League All-Star Game will take place at noon, followed by a fan fest and a retirement ceremony for Park Chan-ho. The home run derby was also pushed back to 5 p.m. today, which each participant's giving just 7 outs instead of 10, with the main All-Star game taking place at 7 p.m. Meanwhile, the starting pitchers in the game will be Yang Young-jung of the Kia Tigers for the Western League and Kim Kwang-yeon of the SK Wyverns for the Eastern League. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day and see you guys again for your sports needs.
Good morning. Well, hope thunder and lightning didn't wake you up this morning. Well, as we can see on our radar map, rain clouds are dropping heavy showers to upper areas, and it seems like rain on the southern regions have let up for most regions, but only upper areas will continue till late in the afternoon. And with monsoon rain and clouds expected throughout the day, we'll notice much cooler daytime highs today. So let's take a closer look at those numbers. The morning low here in Seoul is starting out at 23, then the high will rise to 27. Now that's 3 degrees lower than yesterday, while Daegu will reach 31 and Gwangju and Busan will have a daily high of 28. Now for other regions, it looks like Jeju Island and Daejeon and Dokdo should all see a high of 28, while Mount Keungang climbs to 22. Well, that's all for me at this hour. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you very much, Jion. Those are the stories we have for you this hour. Korea Today is coming up in about 30 minutes' time, and we'll be back throughout the day with more news updates. And I'll be back at 10 a.m. Korea time. Until then, goodbye.